Hello everyone, and we're going to be taking a look at the next RGB hero that's coming out, which is going to be Wukong. This is the Chinese limited unit that was supposed to be coming out. Now, in terms of if it's limited or not, I'm not too sure. I'm pretty sure in the translation from like the CN the direct message, it said limited, but if we look through, it doesn't say limited on this stove page, so we're just gonna have to see. Here is his idle animation for the lobby, and as we go through the rest of his kit, I will show off a bit more of his animations. So this is his lobby animation here. Pretty cool if I say so myself, and his staff is pretty cool. I really like his design. Let's get on with the kit. So Wukong, a quote from him is, "Don't go thinking that I, Wukong, came looking for you. You didn't summon me, I chose you." Got it? And as you can see at the top here, it doesn't really specify if he's limited or not. So we'll come over down here. So he's an automatic doll from Politia, and he impervious to any damage. Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, this is not 100% true, but yeah. And can only be destroyed due to Gingoa program. Pretty nice art if I say so myself. Here's a little bit of lore for Wukong, so I'll just read it out for you guys. Initially tasked with guarding core tower of Politia, Immortal Wukong was excluded from operations and sealed due to his inherent arrogance and uncontrollable free-spirited nature. However, when a crisis struck Politia and they needed to carry out top secret mission, Immortal Wukong was chosen as the suitable candidate given a new mission. Although there is a risk that the Gingoa program could automatically activate and cost him his life upon failure, Immortal Wukong intends to accomplish the mission and reclaim his position as a dominant force, shedding the label of an uncontrollable troublemaker. Pretty lore accurate if I would say so myself, but let's get into the meat and bones as you are here for. So let's just get straight into it. So he is an immortal Scorpio warrior, and he has high attack, high health. So if you come over here, this is going to be the same stat line as Rem and Lone Crescent Bologna. So as you can see, pretty low speed, okay defense, pretty good health. The attack is good as well. Right, so because of his speed, his speed is really low, right? And if you take a look at Lone Crescent Bologna and Rem, they both are played on like counter sets, or they're played for like off-turn abilities. Like Lone Crescent Bologna has her S2 that counter attacks, has a huge AoE damage which you can heal with Sigurd's Scythe. Rem is usually built on counter set, on Sigurd's Scythe, counter attacks, big heals. That's how they're usually played. So someone like Wukong, as we look through our kit, kind of like insinuates, we don't know how to exactly build him, but some sets that we can use is Destruction set because it's high damage, Speed set because it is a general set, Lifesteal since his S3 is an AoE attack, meaning there are big heals from that. As for our 2P sets, Crit set is obvious. Torrent set can be used to increase the damage on this S1 attack, but at the cost of lowering his HP, and Immunity set, which is a really good general set. Pen set may not be the best since, well, his S1 is an AoE attack, meaning it is going to be a waste. You can only use it for his S3. Let's move on to the rest of his kit. Of course, we'll start with the passive because it might affect how the rest of the kit plays out. So his skill 2 increases critical hit resistance and penetration resistance by 35%. When a caster suffers a non-critical hit, increases attack and speed by 20%, stacks up to 3 times, meaning this is up to a 60% attack increase and a 60% speed increase. So this skill is pretty huge in my opinion. Between the attack and speed increase, so getting up to about 60% attack and 60% speed is pretty dang huge. So if you build him on speed set around maybe like 200 speed, maybe even 220 speed, he's going to speed up a lot. So if you put him on something like Sigurd's Scythe, because he is a warrior, he's going to, or like something like Peplet Lance, which is going to increase his damage in there innately, he's going to be lapping around pretty quickly. He's going to have a huge attack increase. I think it's going to be pretty huge. But there's something that I want to key in on is penetration resistance. This is the very first character in the entire game who have penetration resistance, and it is very much so something that I think could change the game for the better. Now the reason this is because if you know what the current meta is, we have Senya units like Blood Moon Haste, Senya, and Jinua, which all have freaking 100% to majority defense penetration, and it makes defense feel not as good because everything just has defense penetration, right? With penetration resistant, this means, well, I don't know how this is going to go for like tanks in the future, because if they get penetration resistance, you know, it might be really hard to take down like tankier units like freaking like if they made a secondary albedo or something and she has penetration resistance, it would be really hard to take her down. For someone like a DPS like Wukong, which might not be built as tanky as some other units, having penetration resistance is pretty huge, because that means he has a good chance of being really playable, because he just won't get straight up blown up by haste counter, Senya S3, Junua S1, S2. Now, I do believe, once again, him into Junua, I think he still loses to Junua, because Junua just, A, is a fire unit, so he has better hit chance into him, so the critical hit resistance might not do as much. But Junua's damage is just extremely high, and even with the 35% resistance, Junua still has 65% defense penetration, and he's using Wind Rider, and yeah, you know, so I don't think it really depends. I think it's up to testing, but I think he still may not be the best into Junua, but I think this passive is really strong, and I think it could show a lot for the future of where the game could be heading. Let's go into his S3. So, skill 3. Heavenly Fighter Strike increases attack of the caster for 2 turns before attacking the enemy and stunning for 1 turn. When the caster's attack is greater than the target's attack, damage dealt increases proportional to the difference, maximum of up to 70%. And then when we awaken it, it is unaffected by elemental disadvantage. This is pretty huge into if you want to play into Junua. Once again, it's kind of insinuating that he may be that guy who can play into Junua, because not only does he have penetration resistance, critical hit resistance, but he also has an unaffected elemental disadvantage on his S3 with a stun. Kind of something that plays into Junua if you think about it. But if you look at the general senses of things for like the rest of his passive, this kind of screams Hua Young. Hua Young, I'm pretty sure, has the same exact S3 as of right now. For Hua Young, she gets increased defense penetration based on the difference in attack, so hers is practically like true damage, while Wukong's is going to be damage increase based on the attack difference. So this, of course, I don't think this is near OG Hua Young, because if you look at OG Hua Young, she had 100% defense penetration as well as a damage increase based on the HP difference, right? So I do think it's not as strong as pre-nerf Hua Young, but I think this is all up to the multipliers on how hard this skill actually hits innately and how much it would hit based off of the attack difference. A good example of this would be Galileus S3. Anything that is under like 20k HP, it does no damage into. You are probably doing like 3,000 damage up to like 6k damage, which is sometimes non-negligible. You might as well just use your S1 instead. While if you hit a target who is above 22k HP, you're taking out a good chunk of their HP bar. It could be something like this, we don't know. We have to wait until the multipliers come out to see how it does. I do think this S3 is pretty good. I'm not sure if I have a lot to say about it. The stun is great into Jadua, and not being unaffected by elemental disadvantage is pretty huge. That means you can literally use them into red units. Not that there is a ton of red units in the meta. The primary one is Junua, so that's the only one I can think about. Fire Ravi is the thing, but she has a cleanse, and she has pretty good attack, so I don't think this is really... It's a good damage skill, but I don't think the stun proportion of it really seems tailored to Junua. Okay, lastly, we have his skill 1 attack, Swing. Attacks the enemy with Ryu... Sorry if I pronounce this wrong. Ryu Bang. And grants a barrier to the caster for 1 turn. Barrier strength increases proportion to the caster's attack. When used on the caster's attacks all enemies, this attack does not trigger a dual attack. Alright, let's talk about this skill. I think this skill seems pretty good. The barrier is nice. We have to see how the multiplier for the barrier as well, because if it's something like Ed's barrier, it won't be pretty huge. If it's something like... It really just depends on the multiplier for the barrier to see how strong the barrier is. I think it's pretty nice. The barrier helps give more mitigation to him, in combination with his critical hit resistance and penetration resistance, which will make him harder to kill. And as this being an AoE attack means that it still has more potential to cause more counterattacks, but I mean, that's not really the more important factor of it. There's two things to note about this. A, we do not know their soul burn effects as of right now. B, we don't know what his dedicated artifact is right now. There is no dedicated artifact listed. There is no soul burn effect listed. So it's not something that we know of right now. We don't know if we're going to get the preview video because as of right now, they just gave us an article for the first time without no video. So we don't know. So this is literally all the information that's on board right now for this unit. And once again, it's not clarified if this unit is limited. It was clarified that was limited for the Chinese server. So I don't know how it's going to be for the global server. Now, we do know last year, Wukong was not limited. She is still able to be picked up. So that maybe that's the case this time, or this unit is limited. So we don't know if he's limited or not. Just be wary of that. I hope you did save your bookmarks, but pretty good in my opinion. I think he's a pretty cool unit. I do once again really like this introduction of penetration resistance because so many things do have pen in the game. So this could possibly be either really bad for the future because it'll just end up making more things more tankier than they should be, or it'll be better for the future because we can play more things because so many things have way too high defense penetration. So we'll see how this holds up for the future.